We're going to be talking through tonight's NFL Showdown. Me and Sheets talked a little bit about it on the MLB Live before lock. A lot of different things to deal with here, but the main thing, Rohde, that I want to start off by asking you about, and maybe the most important thing we're going to have to talk about throughout the show, is what are we going to do with the Philadelphia backfield? They're super cheap. How many of them do we play? Do we play one? Do we play three? Literally all things are on the table there. And it's also going to leave all the other value, I think, significantly lower owned than they ordinarily would be. Do you have a similar take on that?
Yeah. I mean, I like a lot of the backfield. I play a lot of running backs in Showdown. I play a lot of double running backs at least. I do have one. I think I do have a Boston Scott 3 running back build. So yeah, I do have some of those.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Swift, Scott a little bit. I think I had all 3 in one of them. So maybe I don't, but yeah, I can play all 3 of the Eagles running backs. I like them a lot. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's sort of what I'm doing. And because of them being so popular, where I'm using 2 of them, I'm in some cases leaving a ton of money on the table and playing. I actually have some Madison and the backup Ty, whatever his name is. Why can't I think of his name? Ty Chandler.
Ty Chandler. Yeah.
I had a little bit of the 4 running backs and leaving a ton on the table. And then you go captain either Hurts or whatever. And then Hurts or why am I losing everything? Justin Jefferson or Jefferson and Hurts, either way as the captain. I'll have some of that both ways. But that definitely seems like the biggest thing to think about, because you have these guys so underpriced. It's interesting, and the value, the $200 values and all those cheap plays, outside of maybe 1 or 2 Josh Olivers for me, are sort of out the window, which is sort of how I felt on Monday night. And that's, it almost, man, I'll tell you what, I was in first place of everything for the Monday night for quite a while. I mean, not quite a while, between 1st and 5th. And I was in a tie in the lottery one, but I was in the what's it called? In the 222, I had a unique build, and it was beautiful with the double running backs and both defenses, which just nobody else had really played enough of. So I'm excited for the Showdown. How about you for the other cheapies? I know I said they're sort of off the table for me mostly, like the CJ Hams, the Jack Stolls, the Zacchaeus. I'm not sure I needed that value so much, because I feel like the Philly running game is a little bit of a better value spot to take advantage of than those other ones. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I haven't dipped down too much in some of these other cheaper guys. I mean, you can always take shots on some random guy coming in, like, I've heard a lot of talk on KJ Osborne. I mean, he's not like super value or anything, but
right.
He's a 3rd receiver, right? So he's like 20% owned, but you got Brandon Powell and Naylor at 200 each as the 4th receiver. Maybe one of those guys come in and catch one. We seen Mahomes the other day throw it to 7 or 8 different receivers. So, I mean, anything can happen. Maybe Vikings get down in this game. Whatever kind of game script you guys kind of build, how you play it out. Maybe Vikings are down. Some backups come in more. On the running back side, you got CJ Ham. He could always come in and get a fullback dive touchdown or something. He's kind of cheap at 400. So however you kind of build the game script, if you're building running backs, you might throw Ham in, or building receivers. And I say Jalen Naylor because he's a Michigan State guy, so I know he's on this team.
Yeah.
It's just like a cheap $200 guy, and then all the work's going to go to Brown and Devontae Smith, so I try to carry them in. But there's still Quez Watkins at $3K for another guy, or Zashiawis or something.
Zacchaeus.
I can't say Zacchaeus or whatever. I can't say his name. And we're forgetting about the tight ends too. Like Goddard caught 0 catches last game, but the Vikings run a ton of zone. Goddard does really well. He's like 26%. Like big games come from zone teams. So Goddard is and he's showing up a lot of tight end 1 today for leverage. So Hockenson and Goddard, I like the captain for leverage today. Just because I think maybe no one's going to play him last night. And if you're game log watching, you ain't playing Goddard. I'm telling you that.
Right.
So all these Ruby guys, Bill Linus, are not playing Goddard tonight. So
I love that call. And it's interesting because Minnesota actually, part of the thing is their defense last year was really good against tight ends, even though they play the zone. But I love the idea of, if you tell me Dallas Goedert's really going to be 10 or 12% owned in as a flex spot, play him at captain a little bit. Take some shots, get 2 touchdowns out of him, and then you play it. You use one of the running backs, and then you can spend up on what else you want. Nobody's going to play him at captain.
Yeah, exactly.
Hawkinson is actually like, if this was like a huge slate, if this was the 15 gamer, the full whatever everybody's playing, I actually would play Hawkinson as probably my best tight end. I love Hawkinson tonight. I love him as a captain. He's in one of I played two 222s. He's the captain in one of my builds. And Philly, as great as they are on the line, the one thing they gave up a ton of last year, and going back to week 1, was points to the tight end position. So I like the idea of the tight ends, like you mentioned. I like the multiple running backs, the multiple tight ends, and I'm going to have Jalen Hurts in every lineup. Look, if I didn't do that on Monday, maybe I win 100,000 or something. I would have chopped it with a bunch of people or whatever. But I like the idea of using Hurts in every lineup, and I like the idea of using Devontae Smith as one of my other main captains. Those are my sort of like core plays: the running game, the tight ends, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts. Those are my favorite plays on the slate. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely like that Devontae Smith call too. I mean, receiver 2 shows up a little bit too in the sim stuff. So, he's getting a good projection today too, and the ownership's probably going to be decent on him in the captain spot. So it's not a bad play. I definitely like him there. High upside guy, could have a big game. Definitely like that. Definitely like that call too.
Yeah. The only and we got Eric Johnson here in the chat saying, "What's up? Good to see you, man." He's talking about Boston Scott as the captain. And let me just say the only reason why. So I would rather play Penny I'd rather play Boston Scott than Penny overall. And I'd rather play Penny as the captain than I would Scott, because I think the upside is higher. And I'm not sure Philadelphia entirely trusts DeAndre Swift. I love DeAndre Swift, but we know he's had a history of fumbles when he was in Detroit. And they do not want anybody turning the ball over on this team. They're just too good. But I would personally, as far as captains go, I would go Swift. If I pick the running game, Swift 1, Penny 2, Scott 3. If I was talking about just as a utility player, I would go Scott, then Swift, then Penny for me. That's where I'm at. And I see that, I looked at your core. You've got Penny and Swift both in the core. Where do you stand on Boston Scott tonight? What are you going to use him at all?
Yeah, I just put the core as Swift and Penny as the 2 running backs I primarily would use, but I did say earlier I would mix in some Scott.
Yeah,
I wouldn't fully do a bunch, but I do have some Scott and Swift or something. I did mention that. But Penny and Swift would be my 2 favorite backs of the night, I would say, if I do the double running back build.
Right.
And then, Devontae Smith I have here and Goddard, which are all plays that we've talked about, all guys that I'm trying to get in my lineup. So
no, that makes a lot of sense. And then you get left with we talked about it with Goddard, but we also mentioned briefly, and Eric was talking about him as well. And I like him. I'm a KJ Osborne guy. I love him for these types of things because he literally catches one ball in your home. You know what I mean? He's a little more expensive, but I think what's going to happen is people are going to sort of just be off of those, specifically the KJ Osborne mid-range play. I mean, we've got him sub 10% owned in the flex projection. You know what I mean? That's low enough to where I want to do that. I want to do the Dallas Goedert. This mid-range is just getting completely underutilized because it's all going to go. I'm sorry, I have him actually. Sorry, let me change that. He's projected at 20%. My guess is he ends up more like 12% in especially the higher buy-ins, Osborne. But the Eagles defense, Jake Elliott, I would rather play DeAndre Swift over all these guys. The thing is, because of the ownership, and I do think it's a little bit skewed right now. I don't think it's accurate. I think you're going to see DeAndre Swift in at least half the lineups, and I think that you're going to see KJ Osborne closer to 10%, which makes me like him. Do you agree with that? Do you have interest in this 3 to 5K, this 3 to 6K range, I should say? It just doesn't feel like that range is going to get much love outside of the DeAndre Swift, to me at least. That's where I'm at right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, showing Osborne pretty low. That's why I did mention him the third receiver, but he's got good ownership for his price, so they're definitely good plays, so I don't think so. I think people are going to be not playing as much. That's why I like that mid-tier range. It is hard to get off Brown and Devontae Smith, though. They are workhorses for the team, but if you're thinking Goddard or Penny or somebody else gets some good usage or dump offs in the backfield like Swift, they'll limit the upside for Brown and Devontae Smith at their prices.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that mid range could be pretty lethal if they get the dump offs and those cheaper running backs, the Osborns, Addison at 6,400 there too could steal some stuff, from Justin Jefferson. He looked pretty good as a rookie first game. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We don't have to go on forever because I know you got to build your lineups, but I did just want to say so. You got your core up there. I didn't do my cores for the showdowns, but maybe I'm going to rethink that because I showed my early builds. But I like that you're doing that. I think I'll
start. No, I just put that up there as we started the show.
Oh, nice. I like it. Cool. I appreciate it.
As these are 4 guys that I figured we would talk about that I like more. I like Smith more than Brown. I like Swift and Penny more than Madison type for double running back. And I like Goddard a lot. He's probably going to be my 222 build captain today. So
yeah. And I like the double running back for Philadelphia for another reason, even though Jalen Hurts, as we all know, is the best running back in Philadelphia. I do think that this is going to – I mean, I think there's a reasonable chance this turns into like just we're hammering them game. Like I really think this could be like a 35-14 type of game. I think it's totally possible that Philadelphia bounces back strong after a rough first week. They're just so much better on both lines than Minnesota is. I'm not worried about Minnesota doing much to disrupt Philadelphia's offense. And I do think Philadelphia's defense can slow down Minnesota enough. But the one thing I wanted to mention is that Minnesota is always going to be a great PPR team because, in my opinion, I don't think Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback at all. But they're going to have to throw the ball. And when you saw last week, Kirk Cousins, what did he throw for 400 and something yards, and they scored 16 points. I think that who are we pairing outside of Jefferson? And we mentioned the Osborne thing. We haven't talked about Addison, who I think is a really, really talented player. But I'm sort of surprised to see the ownership as, I don't know. I thought that Addison would be much, much more owned than KJ Osborne. And I'm showing him only a little bit more owned. So it's kind of throwing me off a little bit because my idea was to play Osborne to get different. But if they're really similarly owned, which I'm not sure I buy, I think I'd rather play Addison than Osborne. Where do you stand with that specific combination? Because they're similarly priced enough,
Yeah, 6,400 to 5K. Osborne's a 3 receiver. We talked about him. He's not going to get too much ownership. He's in that mid tier. Addison, I did just briefly say that he looked great in that first game, and I think you want to play him a little bit at 6,400. That's a really good price. He could steal a little bit from Jefferson too. Mm-hmm. And he looks good. I mean, he's almost half the price of Jefferson. I mean,
yeah.
Woo, Jefferson is priced up there tonight, guys. 12-4, man. Wowzer.
Yeah, he's up there, but I'm not finding that it's any issue to get him in because of the Swift Penny Scott thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you got to also think that build might be dumpster diving for those guys. Even Josh Oliver, I'm seeing the backup tight end from Minnesota's coming in about 7%. So that's an $800 tight end, a backup guy. So he's getting a little love. So they might be dumpster diving to get Jefferson in the captain spot tonight and a lot. But I mean, he's good. I mean, I did drop some premium content in the Discord today, guys. A couple notes from some guys that analyzed last year's showdowns that all Jefferson was in. So if you're in the premium Discord, check that out, guys. Make sure you join. There's probably a link. There is a link in the live video here. You can join. So jump in there. We got some nice promo packages, NFL 15 to sign up to. So make sure you guys get in there and you get access to the premium channels for that extra info.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I cut you off at a little promo there, Bobby.
No, I love it. I love it when you do it. Are you kidding me? It means I don't have to do it.
I forgot to tell you, 34 in here. This is a hell of a showdown show, guys. Welcome in. Hit that like button too. Appreciate you guys all being here tonight watching us break the showdown down.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit more. What do you think about this game in general? I mean, I know that this is not your thing. We're doing the DFS part of it, but I always like to ask because I have a decided take of Philadelphia is gonna cruise. Whether they win by a couple touchdowns. I mean, I really like Philadelphia to cruise here. If you had to bet one way or the other, which side do you take in? Like the 6.5 for Minnesota? Where are you at?
Oh man, I think I agree with you, Bobby. I think the Eagles cruise today. Last year they won 24-7, and they just lost to Baker Mayfield in the box that no one thought was going to be any good this year. So I think the Eagles are going to come out of their funk. The only thing I worry about with the Vikings is they were kind of in a funk week 1 too. They played real slow. They were kind of a little off at times. Kirk Cousins had a bunch of fumbles last week. So they killed a bunch of drives by that. So maybe they come out of their funk too, and it might be a good game. It could be a really high scoring game, and maybe it is a little bit closer than we think. But I do think the Eagles will end up rolling this one by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I was thinking like if I had to play, like if you were playing Thursday through the week, I mean, this is the second highest total of the entire week, and the game with the highest total, it's going to be pouring down rain in Jacksonville. So this actually would be probably my highest targeted game if we were playing a regular, full slate with it. And I think, because they're playing on Thursday, obviously they're not going to, you may not see, you'll see probably more running as we always do. You see a little bit more conservative plays because it's a little bit hard to come back from that Sunday afternoon to that Thursday evening really, really quick for a football team. And look, we got Tim F saying he's debating the Goddard thing all day because he likes both Philly receivers also with Jalen. And that's a build I didn't get that much of, but I definitely am okay with it. We didn't talk about A.J. Brown much. What are your thoughts about double stacking that? The problem is it's going to make it hard to play the running backs also unless you're just playing like one Viking.
Yeah, I think the current optimal actually has both of them in it. Smith, Brown, a penny, like a cheap penny build with Hurts captain actually type thing.
Yeah.
So that could be a chalky Hurts captain with double Brown and Smith. Throw the cheap penny in there, and you can kind of figure out. It's got Penny, Swift, and it's got a 5-1. It's kind of odd to be a 5-1 for an optimal night.
Yeah.
That means the projections are really heavy on. Some of these projections are really heavy on Eagles tonight as well. Mm-hmm. So. So that is a similar build. It is tough to get on because you do like Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown a lot. Right. And we like those 2 running backs we talked about, Penny and Swift. So, I mean, it's almost got it's almost my core is in there except Goddard, really.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Jolly's asking about defense as a captain. My answer is not tonight, but would it surprise me if their defense scored a touchdown against Kirk Cousins? No, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
It would not surprise me at all either. I do like, I
like the idea. I just don't know if you can.
I like the idea. I just can't pull it either. Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. And I think those 5, like you're saying, the 5-1 Philly build. So like trying to force in, some of the extra stuff because, Eric's running some stuff too. And he's getting the 5-1 build. If the optimal's got the 5-1, that's going to end up being at least popular enough. I would try to encourage people to incorporate some of the Addison, some of the Osborne, some of the Ty Chandler or CJ Ham or Madison, obviously, but the Chandler and Ham are going to, in my opinion, be really low owned because I think people are going to play all the Eagles guys ahead of them. Yeah. So I would try to force a little bit of that in personally. My favorites would be obviously Hawkinson and Jefferson, but you're going to have to find some way to get different if you're going to play like a 4-2 even with those 2 guys on the other side. Or leave a ton on the table. And I think that's totally fine. I actually was doing a thing with Sheets. I don't mind if you leave up to 5 or 6 or 7K on the table tonight. I really don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I got a couple big ones actually for me. Usually I got a 5,800 and a 7,400.
Ooh.
That's really high because everything I got a 1,200 and everything else is under 5. So I do usually keep tight to my builds, but I do have a couple flyers tonight. We've seen some flyers been winning some optimal lineups, haven't even been played the last few showdowns where you could leave, $10,000 on the table even on some of these lately. And last year, somewhere around the 39 to 38K even range where that was the winning lineup. Just because the pricing is so not right for, we have a small sample size going in the year, like, Swift at 4K. Now with Gainwell out, like he might be the top back and we'll get a lot more work, but he's only priced at 4K and then there's Penny right there. Yeah, they do rotate with Scott a little bit, so they do have 3 backs still, but maybe they give the hot hand a go this week and one of them goes off for 30 points. So that's pretty good for their prices. So
yep,
you're going to need one of them in.
Absolutely. All right. I think that, look, definitely the defense as a captain is a sneaky play. There's no question that that's not going to happen very much. And it's the kind of matchup where against Cousins, I'd like to do that. The problem is, I'd rather do that if this was like the Jets playing them. The Eagles are just going to put up fantasy points. There's just no 2 ways about it. Between Hurts, Brown, Smith, Goddard, and one of the running backs at least, it's really, really hard not to have like 3 of those guys in for me, just because I think you need the raw points. And the defense would literally have to score a touchdown and probably need a couple turnovers as well as 4 or 5 sacks in order to get there, I think. And we got Peter, this Peter Porker asking if Oliver as captain is too risky or Boston Scott. I don't like the idea of going down that far. I would throw in I personally would rather play Penny if I was going to go captain style. But I do think Boston Scott he's in more of my lineups than Swift. And actually, no, I would also go Swift as the captain. But I'm not getting to I don't think I'd want to go to Josh Oliver as I just think there's no reason to do that. Do you agree with me, Rohde?
Yeah, I mean, I might have threw Josh Oliver in one lineup of like 26. So
Yeah.
Just because I want to switch up my low cheap guy. So
and not as a captain though.
Oh no, yeah, and in the flex. Sorry.
Yeah, I would be happy. I mean, I'd be okay with using any of the Philadelphia running backs in reality, but I personally am only going to probably have Swift as a captain, maybe throw one Boston Scott in there, if any. Eric's asking, how many tight ends and running backs would you play in your lineup? So it depends on which lineups we're playing, but I'll answer first, then I'll let you go. I have some where I have a Hawkinson, Swift, Scott, Madison lineup, and I've got a Goddard, Madison, Chandler, Swift lineup. So 4 as a combination is the max for me between the running backs and tight ends combo. I also do have Hawkinson, Goddard, Swift, and Chandler, and a Hawkinson, Goddard, Swift, and Penny. Now that I look at it.
Yeah, I probably have some of those too, but I probably wouldn't get over 4 either from my side either.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky, right? And then you're leaving like $12K on the table, no matter who else you play. Because if you get to 5, that means you're not playing. You play Jalen Hurts and the captain with 5 of them, you still are going to leave like $12K.
Yeah, still pretty good salary.
Yeah. So let's see. The bike's down. Jefferson going to get. Yeah, but one thing about Darius Slay. Okay, let me just say one thing. Do not worry about Darius Slay. Do not use that as a reason. I like Darius Slay as a corner. He's a good corner. He's actually like a very, in my opinion, an overrated corner that's being a little bit masked by the fact that it's a really good pass rush and a good defense overall. I don't think that Darius Slay I don't think there's anybody who's going to tell me that Justin Jefferson can't beat a matchup. The only guy I would have any hesitation to put him against, actually, I don't even know if there's one. I don't honestly think there's one guy I would say no, because they'll run bubble screens for him. Like his real floor is like 15, isn't it? Jefferson, how does he get less than 15?
No, I agree. I mean, last week he had 27 and he didn't even have a touchdown or anything.
Yeah, they couldn't get in the end zone.
Huh? I know. So the guy could have scored twice last week. He had a 45 plus, like he could have got a couple more balls.
And they double teamed him the entire second half.
They just beat the guy with the ball. So yeah, I gave you guys some stats in the premium Discord earlier. He does look good. He wasn't 7 optimal captains last year out of the 17 games he played. They track each showdown now based on optimal lineups. A lot of data you can find out there, guys. So you can. I don't usually use past experiences, but I'm just kind of like looking at it based on a game script. And then last year they did lose 24-7 against the Eagles. But I mean, he's going to get points. I have him in a lot of lineups, but I do at 12-4, I do fade him in some as well, just to try to get different. Like maybe Addison takes some of his volume. Hawkinson gets a touchdown this week and a couple catches across the middle. I think Bobby gave it out earlier that tight ends did pretty well against the Eagles here in the middle. So he likes Hawk a lot today. So maybe he gets a little bit more work in the middle of the field today. And Jefferson's not getting those middle of the field passes as much when Hawk or someone else is grabbing them.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. All right, well, let's get to we'll get out of here because I'm already stressing for your lineups you got to build.
I've been building them as we talk. We're good.
Okay, all right.
I built some earlier too. I got a head start in today for some reason, so it worked out.
Nice. That's awesome. So I'm gonna be I'm in on the Osborne idea, guys. Everybody, I'm in on Osborne and Addison. Like I really am. I think that Osborne. And by the way, for what it's worth, Osborne I think he had 2 games last year where he would have been optimal if I'm not mistaken, which is good enough for me. I mean, look, that's 2. If you can tell me 15% of the time he's going to be the optimal guy, and I'm not saying he's going to do it today. I'm just saying there's no different. It's not like Adam Thielen was not a number 2 receiver. You know what I mean? Osborne his role is only going to probably increase this year versus decrease. So I like the idea of Osborne and Addison both. Anyway. My hot take of the night is that TJ Hawkinson, it's not that hot of a take. I would like him to have a hotter one. TJ Hawkinson and 2 Philly running backs are going to be in the winning lineup. That's not bad though.
No.
Yeah. I think that's just barely on the verge of being too chalky, but that's 3 of the
So
6.
you take Swift, Penny, Dallas Goddard, Hawkinson, put them in the lineup. I'm going to do that and see what I get. I probably already have that one, but
yeah.
let's then see where we're at. I don't think we can get double quarterbacks, but you might be able. You could put Swift captain or Hawk captain, maybe.
Tell you what about going Scott? That's what I'm thinking about doing, is maybe going Scott and
oh yeah.
I mean, Scott right now, is this for real? Like, if he's really sub 10% owned in the flex, I would just based on the fact that we've got Rashad Penny at, let's see what he's only at 50. If people are going to leave this much on they're just going to play Swift at 20. If the combination of all 3 running backs for Philly is really 45%, and you think that, you should have 2 in almost all of your lineup. That's my take. I really believe that in this kind of a matchup.
Yeah, I like it. I have a lot of double running backs, and you might talk me into switching it off Goddard captain, because I do play a lot of double running backs on that 222 to get different. So, I could still do it, but man, it just I'm getting into that 4 to 5 build Phillies. When I've looked at some other optimal sims, yeah, the 5-1 builds are a little hotter for today than normal. But the 3-3s are still getting quite a bit of love as an optimal type build. But we have been talking a lot more 4-2s or 5-1 type build constructions with playing all these Eagles, or so maybe going a little bit more 3-3 competitive game, shootout game, 35-42, something like that. Could be possible, I mean,
yeah.
I think if Eagles get up a few scores, they're gonna Cousins gonna have to start chucking the ball a little bit too. So that's why I'm a little bit less on the Vikings run game than I am on the passing. A little bit more on their passing side.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, now I'm getting stressed because I got to finish building my lineup. So, we're gonna get out of
30 minutes. Yeah, we can end it.
Any major take or a higher? So I think Goddard's a pretty good take. We want to stick with that one?
Yeah, I think my take being Goddard's a pretty good take. I think
I like
the tight ends. He had 0 catches last week. I mean, he could give you a 0 in the captain spot if you play him there. So it's got to be somewhat of a hot take.
Yeah, or Goddard and Hawkinson together, I don't think is going to be a common build either.
Yeah, and I might look to build that one. I kind of like that one. I might leave out Cousins, and I have some Hawkinson and Jefferson builds with 4 Eagles that I like. Maybe they don't get, a lot of touchdowns where Cousins is viable, and maybe they get a lot of catches, like Hawk gets a lot and Jefferson. But
yeah,
so
absolutely. And thanks so much to everybody for tuning in. So sorry, Jolly, that we got to go in just a minute. Any other questions, please post in the premium Discord. We'll do our best to answer it. Brandon Cruz put up all of his exposures in there, which we really appreciate. The guy's awesome, and he's done really, really well with the other sports, because he's a NASCAR guy, but he's done really, really well with a lot of these Showdown stuff. So thanks. Shout out to Brandon Cruz, and thanks for doing that. I'm going to post my exposures once I have them done. And good luck to everybody. Crush it tonight, Rohde.
And let's get it.